And the Justice Department and the FBI announced hundreds of alleged sex abuse offenders were arrested in Operation Restore Justice. The operation was coordinated by all 55 FBI field offices. One of the men taken into custody was a registered sex offender in Presque Isle. Alyssa Thurlow joins us now with details.
The Department of Justice says the operation resulted in the rescue of 115 children and the arrest of 205 child sexual abuse offenders over the course of 5 days. One of those offenders is 26-year-old Joseph Miley. He's facing new charges after the FBI, with the help of Presque Isle police, raided his Summer Street home back in January. Miley appeared in federal court in Bangor yesterday. He's charged with attempted sex trafficking of a child, enticement of a minor, and attempted sex trafficking of a minor. Officials say he allegedly used social media accounts to offer various minors money to engage in sex acts with him. In interviews with authorities, the victims say they met online in 2021 and began a relationship which progressed to a sexual relationship. Court documents say during 2022 and 2023, not including the time period that Miley was in jail, he would take the 16-year-old victim to stay with him in various hotels in and out of state to have sex. The victim reported having a patchy memory of what happened while traveling with Miley because authorities say she was in a loop where she constantly fell out of control. Now, Attorney General Pam Bondi addressed the arrest yesterday, saying children are being taken advantage of and it has to be stopped.
Children and their families now have a chance to heal. These are online predators. Think about this. 115 victims, children. In 5 days, we were able to help.
Bondi is urging parents and caregivers to monitor the online activities of their children. She says the threat by online predators is so serious, kids shouldn't have a right to privacy on the internet. Court records show Miley is due back in court in July. Morgan, back to you.
All right, thank you, Alyssa Thurlow, reporting live in the studio for us today.